Hello, Rena.
Well, hello, Dr. Bach. Good to be with you again today.
Good to be with you. Welcome, everyone, to a free association conversation between Rena K and myself, Dr. Bach Ho. We're both organic intelligence coaches. We help people reduce suffering and increase capacity to handle more in life with ease using the protocols of organic intelligence. In these live stream free association conversations, Rena and I try to aim both at people who are completely new to organic intelligence and people who already know its basics. We try to find the balance. Today, our topic is it important to feel safe? Straight away, I have some fear about this topic because I may say a lot of controversial things. We'll see. I also want to say that for this particular topic, Rena and I didn't have time to talk about it last week. We usually prepare a week ahead. We discuss what topic to discuss, but we didn't have time, so I just sprang it on her a few minutes before we started, and then she was down with it. So today's free. It's always a free association conversation, so I don't know what's going to happen. Weird stuff may happen. That's fine, but maybe especially today because we didn't have a lot of prep time, and because I chose a topic that is somewhat triggering to me because it may get into controversial territory. So maybe it's not a safe topic for me, actually. Maybe I don't feel safe with this topic. But okay, but to lay down my hand, I have a lot of suspicion around the concept of safety and feeling safe as it is often used in conversation, especially in the therapy and healing world. And we may get into that. Hopefully, we do. Um, but I feel like I'll start with something more focused on organic intelligence proper. Um, yeah. So here's a question, rhetorical for myself to try to answer, and then I'll hand it to you. Why does orientation work, or what's behind it, or why does it work? So orientation, for people who are new, refers to automatic connection to the environment through your senses, seeing and hearing what's around you, and ideally without much effort. So easily doing it, automatically doing it, effortlessly doing it. That's orientation. And it's the most important thing in organic intelligence because it's building up your access to orientation that will grow your biological capacity over time. I won't explain more on that. You can look at my videos and read my posts on that. But so orientation is connection to the environment through the senses. That's easy, and it's the most important thing. And people feel a lot better when they do it. I mean, it has that kind of magical, fast quality to it. Now, the
By and
question,
large.
by and large, thank you.
Right. Well, just to acknowledge that for some people, the way they understand orientation and then try to do orientation, because there's lots of people who talk about it now, even outside of organic
Okay,
intelligence, and
okay,
so then they
yeah,
try it and then they go, but I feel worse. I don't feel
okay,
better. And so
thank you.
I want to name that and acknowledge that because there are people for whom that's the case and there's reasons for that. But yeah.
Thanks for barging in. I appreciate that very much. So when it's correctly understood and possible, and you're in that state, it feels very good, very relaxing, settling. Now, a question is, why does it work? We know that it works and it's important for biological capacity growth. I'm just asking the question, why does it work? And one point here that I've heard, and Steve has mentioned this point a few times, but I don't know how wedded he is to it, to the point itself and to how important it is in organic intelligence. But the point is, when you orient, you connect to the environment, which is usually not life threatening. There's no tiger that's coming at you. It's just boring stuff like a wall, flowers, a pen, a chair. So you're connecting to the environment, which is safe. It's not life threatening. And because you're connecting to a safe environment, you feel safe. And that is offered sometimes in some contexts as an explanation or contributing explanation to why orientation works, why it makes you feel better. And I'm suspicious of that. Um, it, 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 I don't see this is, I'm not fully prepared for this conversation. It's just because there's so much in my brain right now. But what's in my mind right now is that when I orient, the attention is going to the environment, and so less to whatever internal intensity there was. And in my mind, there's kind of a period at the end of that, like done, next point. I mean, but adding in, well, the environment is typically safe, and so when you detect that, you feel safe, and when you feel safe, you feel better. It feels just kind of an arbitrary add-on or something like that, even though I know that in the trauma and healing world, a lot of people talk about survival, safety, feeling safe, orient, feel safe. So that's where I am right now in my thinking on it. Yeah, I'm just curious if you have, if you're
Yeah.
willing. Yeah.
Well, um, so what I'm hearing from you is there's an acknowledgement that connecting to the external environment, when the external environment is neutral to pleasant, so in other words, it's not life-threatening, that somehow that process of getting in contact with that and become aware of that transfers into a feeling. And for some people, they will say it's the feeling of being safe. And what I heard you say is that really it's just a feeling that feels good, pleasant, better than some other feeling internally that might have been happening. And it's whether or not you add the word safe or not safe to it. What I'm hearing you say is that that's kind of just an addendum. It's an add-on. It doesn't really help us in terms of the reasons why we do orientation. It's just simply doing orientation and engaging in that process, ideally automatically, but even if it's a focused or a deliberate practice, an intentional practice, that somehow that just improves the feeling in terms of positive and negative. So it improves the valence of the feeling. And that's really what we're after in the moment, right? The idea is that oftentimes the internal doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant. And orientation by connecting with what's external, that's by and large going to be less ungood, unpleasant,
Mm.
uncomfortable. Right. And it's that distinction that I'm hearing you say is the important distinction versus safety, non-safety.
Yes. I, so let's say yes. Uh, let's say I'm angry and it's uncomfortable, or I'm stressed and it's uncomfortable. And so I take a walk and I orient, I look at trees and birds and stuff, and I feel better. Now that happens all the time. So that's orientation. But I don't have the experience, well, I feel safer now, or, well, the tree is not dangerous to me, the birds are not dangerous. So that's why I feel better because it's safe out there. So I'm feeling safer. I what I do know is that orientation works, and that when the attention goes to the environment, interior high uncomfortable intensity dies down. In my experience, there's not a there's usually not there's almost never a thought of about safety, or is the environment safe? Okay, there are no snakes or bears, so I feel safe. So that, yeah, yes, that's one point I was making, and I was also suggesting that I think the founder of Organic Intelligence, Steve, has mentioned a few times. He doesn't say it often, so it's not like he doesn't say it often, and so I want to point that out. He said it a few times here and there that the environment is typically safe, and he makes this point when he's explaining the value of orientation, which made me wonder whether he would gravitate to the view that a contributing reason orientation works to make you feel better is that you see that you're safe, or the environment is safe, therefore you're safe, therefore you feel safe. And I would, if he is doing that, I may disagree with that part or disagree with that aspect of organic intelligence. So I'm both trying to understand, I'm raising the issue of what exactly is the content of organic intelligence around orientation, possible disagreement with it, and independently saying, I'm dubious of the idea that
Mm.
uh, assessing safety is relevant uh, to the efficacy and nature of orientation as the potentiator of of auto organization, but of feeling better. Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a feeling, I mean, what's coming to me now is that I have the feeling that, or have the thought that it's going to be very hard for us to really evaluate this question
Mm.
because yes, we talk about a feeling and a feeling of safety, but that feeling of safety is going to come out of an entire biological state, including all of our brain networks and how those networks are communicating to our awareness of what's going on. So it may be, let's say, for instance, and I don't have any evidence to this fact, and I don't think anybody actually does, it may be that, in fact, if we were to be able to do an fMRI scan of the brain or have other ways of noticing what's happening on a brain level, um, let alone the whole distributed network of the body, we might find that, yes, indeed, when a person orients and is gauged in orientation, that there are certain things that happen in the brain that then lower activity in certain regions, like say, regions where they will be more active when there is actual threat or is a lack of safety, right? And then what happens to the body when that's the case? It may be that we can measure that someday, and that yes, orientation would have the effect on the physiology that is in line with a physiology that feels more safe versus less safe. I don't know. I don't think we have evidence to that fact. And so we may discover, say, and I don't like to talk about brain regions specifically because I think the brain is far more complicated, but people will talk about like the lower brain states. So, say the amygdala, right? And that when we feel high levels of fear, there's going to be greater activity in that part of the brain, and then there's going to be lesser activity in other parts of the brain where we feel more connected to others and we feel a sense of empathy and connection and feel good. Um, my guess is orientation does have an influence on those brain states, which would then translate into feelings of safety or non-safety.
Yeah. You're raising a lot of epistemological questions in my mind, and I'm partly attracted to that, even though it will probably not be very attractive to many listeners. So I'm kind of oscillating right now what I want to do. But one thought for now is if you're saying whether someone feels safe is a function of obtaining knowledge about what is going on in their biology, I would be suspicious of that claim because the understanding and grasp and identification of emotions and feelings can be done prior to advanced, more abstract knowledge about what happens in the biology. But that gets into, I don't know if I need to. If you want to,
Yeah,
I was gonna go into my suspicion about the idea of feeling safe in general as a concept. But did you want to say something before I?
right. And well, just to clarify, I would agree that you don't have to know what's going on in the biology in and of yourself. And I would suspect that evidence along those lines would give some enlightenment to us as to what's happening in orientation. So the reality
Yeah.
is we just don't know fully. We know that, through all of our work with clients, that when orientation happens and when it happens automatically and effortlessly, that yes, people feel better. And when people are able to do that more often, like that's just a normal state, in general, their lives are better. So we know
Yeah.
that. We just don't know what's happening on the physiological level that creates that.
Thank you. I want to clarify that at the beginning when I asked why does orientation work, I was actually not trying to ask what happens during orientation because you might ask what happens in the body during orientation or during sleep or during digestion or during respiration, and then you can have experts studying what happens. I was asking why does it work, aiming towards one's thoughts and feelings around orientation and what kinds of thoughts and feelings are happening during the orientation and in the move towards feeling better. And then
Mhm.
art is the concept of safety in that mix much of the
Mhm.
time. Okay, all right. So thank you for being able to deal with me in whatever level. Um, okay, I'm suspicious of the idea of feeling safe. I'm not saying it's not, I have a lot of suspicion around it. I have a lot of thoughts around it. None of them are settled, but uh, there's a lot of focus on, do I feel safe? You make me feel unsafe. I don't feel safe. And I'm suspicious about a lot of it. I'm not sure where to go with my suspicion right now because I feel rather unsafe, quote unquote, as a joke with this topic. But one thing, okay, here's an opening thing. When people talk about feeling unsafe, one thing I think of is, are they just saying, are they saying they feel scared? So in kind of the classic eight crayons for children emotions, you have happy, mad, sad, and scared. And so scared would be associated with anxiety, nervousness, and all that. So when people say they feel unsafe, are they saying they feel scared or anxious? So is it just and only just? Is it just another way of saying there's some anxiety, there's some fear, or something more sad? That's one question. Another question I have is Another wondering I have is when people say they feel unsafe, I've found myself, I often translate it to they feel uncomfortable. And I've been more gravitating towards the idea that comfort and discomfort should be the concepts to focus on, especially in the context of organic intelligence, over the concept of safe and unsafe. Because if you ask, am I feel safe? Am I safe? Am I unsafe? You are thinking about threat. So that will potentiate whatever states that are uncomfortable that you're associating with feeling unsafe. Whereas in organic intelligence, the focus should be on comfort and in positive reinforcement, which I won't explain. You can look at the video, but the goal is comfort. So when someone says they feel unsafe, I often translate that in my mind from an organic intelligence perspective. They feel discomfort currently,
Mhm.
and um, I know I'm raising a lot of stuff at once, but let's just go there. I think the word safe and the concept of safe and feeling unsafe is often used with normative assumptions about morality and politics, where if you say you're unsafe, everyone around you is supposed to attune to you and do whatever they can to make you feel more comfortable. And I think that's fucking bullshit. So there's a politically loaded element to this idea, to the focus on talking about, do I feel safe? Do I feel unsafe? And there's a question of, is feeling unsafe just another way of saying feeling anxious or scared?
Mhm.
And from an organic intelligence perspective, should is it more important to assess whether you're comfortable or uncomfortable rather than whether you're safe and unsafe? To which my answer would be yes. Okay, I know I threw a lot at
Yeah.
you, but you
Yeah.
can take whatever you
Well,
want.
when I've been in environments, especially like in a one-on-one situation, right? So if I'm in a one-on-one situation, which is different than a group situation, and if somebody says, I went to my family and we had the family dinner and I just didn't feel safe, and if somebody says that. And they can say that about any, or, I went to this group and I was online and the leader said something and like right there I didn't feel safe, right? If that happens, then I'm going to want to drill down with that person to go, well, what does that term mean? Because you're right, that word itself has had an expanding definition over time, and that expanding definition has taken on those moralistic, ideological, meanings to it, right? As well
Mhm.
as the de facto assumptions of what everybody should do in response to it. But if I'm working with a person and they say I feel unsafe, well, we're going to have a conversation a little bit about that. Help me understand what it is that felt unsafe, or help me understand what the actual, like, how did you know you felt unsafe? And the reason why I'm curious about that is, to your earlier point, is more often than not, it comes down to I felt uncomfortable. I felt nervous, anxious, right? Like so within that frame that you put that in, there, it's just another word to say to indicate fear of some kind, or anxiety, or the discomfort that comes with those. Because you could also feel anger and feel uncomfortable. You can feel sad and feel uncomfortable. So there is a distinction within comfort, discomfort. There is a distinction or differentiation within discomfort of, is it along the lines of either anger or fear or sadness? And most often it's going to be around fear. I've never actually, I'm trying to think if I've ever heard it not be that. And to me, when working with an individual, that's a much better focus than safety, non-safety, because of all the other pieces that have come in. I can work with more easily the idea of that, wow, I felt very nervous because if I'm going to say this, then my mother's going to say that and back to me, and then I'm going to feel like I'm really small, and then I'm going to want to go away. And like there's so many things that are happening that are worthwhile to, in organic intelligence, I'm not going to spend a lot of time exploring that. I'm going to do other things. But if that's what's being brought into the session, then we're going to try to parse that apart, to figure that out a little bit so that when a person has more differentiation, they're going to have a better ability to notice what actions they could take or could not take, or how to handle the situation. As soon as a person just goes, oh, I felt unsafe, I need to leave, right? Or I feel unsafe and everybody should behave differently around me. That's hard to work with. You can't do anything with that until you get a really deep understanding of what's going on so that people know their options, because there's usually way more options available to a person than so and so said something, I need to leave. Like that's a automatic coupling that isn't necessarily need to be there, and
Hmm.
they do that with that phrase, I felt unsafe.
Okay, I'm sorry. There's a lot, as usual. There's a lot. I'm. Thank you. I may have some disagreements with some. Well, let me. If someone tells me, so by the way, so a common thing that happens to me is, sorry, I'm really groping at my direction. So thank you for your patience, everyone. You said if someone comes to you saying they're unsafe, you would want to drill down, or because it's hard to work with directly. I'm not sure what I think about. Okay, here's something that happens to me. If females come to me wanting to be my client, and frequently the story is, I feel unsafe around men. I've had only female practitioners, but I feel like I've had a plateau. I don't feel safe working with a man, but let's just try it. So that's they come at me with that. I think, okay, let's go, let's do it. So, um, if they say they're unsafe, I'm fine with it. I mean, just okay, you're saying you feel unsafe around me. I won't. Let's just keep going. Let's just do our OI and see what happens. And usually it works out. So I think I would be uncomfortable when they say that, if they say I'm feeling unsafe, and now it's your turn to talk, and you have to somehow do something to make me feel unsafe, which wouldn't know what that is. So I think that's kind of what you meant, right?
Right,
Someone just
right.
lands on you, I feel unsafe. And that's supposed to be some kind of like trump card, like now the rest of the room, or you have to like really kind of attune to me.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
happens so often in group situations. So
Okay.
that's why I specify very specifically when I'm working one-on-one with an individual, because group dynamics are a whole nother, bag of tricks in
So
a sense. But it's interesting. You just brought up an interesting
oh,
point that I had in my mind earlier, that people have often had experiences that have been, especially in the relational field, that have been unpleasant. Some of those have, um, in a way, created harm, even if not physical harm, right? So it could be that you're, as a kid, an 8-year-old kid, if you're in an environment that is causing a sense of emotional harm, psychological harm, you can't necessarily see those wounds, you're going to carry with you a feeling of a lack of safety. And then that's going to translate into a statement like a client might say to you of, I don't feel safe working with men, but I'm kind of interested in working with you because somehow I feel like safe enough to work with you, even though you're a male. That a person is just giving me information in a statement like that about really probably what their history has been. I don't know what that is. That might show up in due time. I'm not going to go drill down in something like that, but they've just given me information that historically speaking, they've been in environments that probably were at some level less safe than would be have been optimal. And so they're using that word to connote or give point to previous experiences of life when in fact they were unsafe. So if you're 8 years old and you're experiencing a male who's been is threatening in some way, well, you are unsafe. Now, today, as an adult around you online, is that going to be unsafe? Is that going to be threatening to them? Not likely, but it's a carryover, it's a holdover, it's part of what the brain's doing to predict, are you going to do something to harm me or not? And all I have to make that prediction on is my past experiences.
There's some, thank you. There's something, uh, it's pre-articulate. I hope I can get at least some words out. It, it's like this word, this concept of safety, safe, feeling unsafe. Okay, first of all, you distinguished, so 100%. There's a distinction between being safe and feeling safe. Of course, there's no question about that. So that's to me, that's just a cement block. We're done. I mean, that's clear. No question. So, um, the popularity of this feeling safe, feeling unsafe, it has the feel of this artificial intensity amplifier. Like it's in like the feel safe. The concept of safe is just hovering around. It's in the air. It's hovering around all of us, and so the mind can gravitate to that, and it artificially intensifies discomfort. Whereas without that concept being so much of a magnet, okay, I may lose a friend. My girlfriend may break up with me. I may lose my job. I may lose money in the stock market. Someone I love may get sick. So bad things can happen all the time, and they cause pain and suffering and discomfort, no question. Now, with this concept of safety that seems to be in capital letters hovering around us culturally, it like attracts the discomfort to that concept. So if someone gets sick, if my girlfriend breaks up with me, if I'm in danger of losing my job to AI, now there's even more discomfort because the biology gravitates to this concept of safety because it's in the air. Whereas prior to the prevalence of this concept attracting so much, being such a magnet, it was more just, okay, there's fear, there's discomfort, there's pain, there's suffering, but it was not at this sudden an artificial acceleration to that high level of intensity that's common with the concept of unsafe. Did any of that make sense? I'm just
Yeah,
struggling to.
I actually, yeah, no, I think it's great.
Okay.
Now I'm sitting here going, okay, I had four thoughts go through my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Where am I going to pick? Um, the word as it's being used today is very nebulous. And so it can, it's been prone to, like many words today, to concept creep. And so now it's applied to so many things, which is why the distinction between objective safety, threat to harm, and the feeling of safety is not so much just a cement block obvious. To me, that's super important because I find that
Hmm.
when working with people, to be able to come back to the fact that, yes, you may not feel safe, and objectively, what's really happening. Once we can get that differentiation, now we can go, and what do you want to do about that? How do you want to behave? What actions do you want to take? How do you want to think about this? And until a person can get out of, oh, this very nebulous, oh, it just feels safe, And like you said, that's going to be an artificial intensity amplifier.
I think,
All of a sudden they're just like swimming and, or, and they're drowning in quicksand, right? Like they just feel like they're sinking into this goo. And conversation becomes very difficult, but also so does the internal experience. Because the internal experience now is going to do like a pinball machine. The ball is just going to hit this lever and then there and then hit this bell. And like all these things are going to go off in the system
mm,
around something that is so unclear, undifferentiated, just a ball of images and sensations and meaning and affect that don't have any clarity. So to me, like I don't find it as like I find it, in the conversation. Yes, there's a difference between objectively being unsafe because somebody is coming after you. I mean, there are places in the world where lots of people are objectively unsafe, and that's very different than what we get to experience here. And even in the US, there's going to be lots of people who are going to say, yes, right now I objectively feel unsafe, and there's probably
yeah.
some truth to that. Um, but this word is often used not about that. It's used about just, oh, I feel like you said earlier, I feel uncomfortable. I feel nervous. I don't feel like I don't know if this is going to turn out okay. I don't know if I'm going to feel okay at the end of this. And yeah, that's when I prefer not to use a word like safety and feel like, yes, it's just kind of hovering in the air, like you said, ready to be attached to anything and then amplified in terms of like right away, you're going to start feeling worse, right? And so it intensifies that level of unpleasant sensation.
When we're okay, well, we're on our time.
Yeah, let's go a little bit. I
Yeah,
got
let's
some
go a little
time,
bit over.
so
Yeah, so
go a little
I
bit.
think at the moment I'm still in the air. I mean, there's a lot of thoughts about it, so I don't have settled views exactly. But one thought right now is so when I get female clients coming to me saying, I don't feel safe around men, but I want to try. I don't feel safe around you, but let's just see or I feel somewhat safe. That's why I'm coming to you, but I feel a little bit, oh, it's a man. I don't know. Privately, and to my female clients, I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but you're great. Let's keep working. But in my privately in my mind, it's just okay. So you feel uncomfortable, but I don't. This safety and unsafety is not paramount in my mind. I just think uncomfortable, and then within one or two sessions, they're comfortable. So the issue
Right,
goes away. Really.
right.
So that's why I'm inclined to think to the title of this conversation. Is it important to feel safe? An answer I'm considering. I'm not settled, but is not really. It's important to feel comfortable, but it's important to feel comfortable. And if you can go on dates and pursue a job and ask for a promotion and ask the girl out and put your money in Bitcoin and climb a mountain and go fly to a country and try to live on your own. If you can do that comfortably, you want to do that comfortably and enjoyably. You want to safely, I mean, check for objective safety, of course, but the focus should be on pleasure, and then towards pleasure it should be comfort. And I'm thinking in many cases, just if questions about safety and unsafety can just slough off, that'd be better, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I've been in group situations like group learning environments where the leader just flat out said, I really don't care about your safety or not. Like I'm here to teach you something. You're here to learn something from me, and whether you feel safe or not, that's not my problem. Go deal with that somewhere else, right? And like it was a really pretty radical thing to do today in a therapeutic learning environment. And, I had to say for me, there's a little bit where it was like, oh, there's some relief to that. And I also recognize that um, I do want people to feel okay in various groups. And I want to, I lead groups. So I work very hard to create an environment where the intensity is not going to get out of hand, and that the intensity, if it's going to bump up, it's going to bump up through pleasure. Like I craft my groups so that there's a minimal chance that a person will be able to go, oh, I felt really unsafe in the class today. So and so in the group said this, or so and so in the group said that, or like I think about that, but I'm not thinking in terms of safety. I'm thinking in terms of intensity. I don't want the intensity to bump up through unpleasant experiences because that's not going to help the biology organize. And since I'm in the business of wanting to support auto organization of the biology, I'm going to create those groups to feel good. And the response often
Yeah.
from people is, yes, I felt very safe here. And people will report in their feedback forms and they'll use that word, but it's not because I'm trying to create safety, in any form other than I'm trying to minimize harm that comes from too high of intensity through unpleasant experiences.
When, yeah, when the female clients who were initially, I'm saying female because I haven't actually had a male client who's just said that he's unsafe. That's why I'm just all of them have been female so far. So when they say that when they say after a few sessions, I feel safe with you, I feel safe. I feel a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, great, that's great. You feel safe, but why does that have to be the thing? Like, why is that such an organizing thing for your
Yeah.
attention? It should be pleasure.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so
But that
yeah,
that
I
would
guess yeah.
that would be indication though of a biology, just the whole organization of the system is still focused on what's wrong, and it's
Right.
it's a carryover, it's the conditioning of times where they have felt unsafe. And so in some ways, if a person says that, what I would hear is that, oh, there's something in my biology that is more organized and is moving in that direction, and now this generalization that I had, all men are scary, right? That's just an overgeneralization, and that happens in through conditioning. That overgeneralization is getting more and more distinguished so that they can go, well, most men are still scary, but Bach is not. And that's what we want. That's what we want to break down those overgeneralizations that come out of really negative experiences, including traumatic emotional upbringings. And so to me, if they say that, if they were to say that to you, I would be like, that's awesome. That's cool. Because that's a big deal for many women to be able to have that experience, that organizing
Yeah.
experience of beginning to distinguish and get in and break down that overgeneralization, because the overgeneralization, everybody knows it's not helpful. So all men are this, all women are that, all white people are this, like any of those stereotypes are just not helpful. And we all know that. And so if a person comes and says, hey, my stereotypes are breaking apart a little bit, and I'm developing the nuance of, oh, this is just another individual in front of me. The fact that this individual is male, or this individual is Asian, or this individual
Mhm.
is gay versus straight, none of those things actually really matter. It's just the individual Bach. And is he a kind and empathetic and supportive and attuned, and is he able to help me? That's all that matters. And individuals are not the general. And so when people are saying my general has become more nuanced, that I can see you as an individual, that's what they're saying when they use the phrase, oh, you're now safe, even though you're a man.
I don't have an add-on to that, thank you. I have a repetition of it feels like that concept of safe is it is not a, it feels like it's doing more harm than good. I have to think that through a lot more, but I'm not saying I fully agree with that. I haven't thought it out, but it feels like this net balance, negative effects on the healing process for that concept to be in there so much.
Well,
Um,
I
yeah,
I, I think your kind of intuitive sense of that, or reason sense of that, one or both, could be borne out by studies. I know that there are studies out there, and I can't cite them specifically, that have looked at how quote unquote safe people feel, and they've been studying this over time. And they know that groups that focus on trying to feel safe, people feel less safe. And so this, I think you are right that this overemphasis that has developed in the last decade to two, decade and a half, I guess, has created an environment where people actually feel worse in the settings that they're in, not better. And so if you look at, say,
yeah,
especially like college campuses or work environments where they've done these studies around safety, that it is in fact the case that the more you emphasize trying to be safe, the less safe people end up feeling. And so, to your point, I think there's reason to steer ourselves away from that concept and trying to ensure that for ourselves or for others, and do more to come back to, is this bringing pleasure? Is this not bringing pleasure?
yeah,
If it's
yeah.
not bringing pleasure, what do you do? If it is bringing pleasure, go for it. Like coming back to the basics within organic intelligence, I think that's going to be a better way to go.
Thank you. I thank you for being okay with going over time. I'll end. Let me. Well, I would like to make the following point. Thank you for talking about pleasure and orienting towards pleasure. I want to say that if you followed my channel for a while and you know my writings, you know that my main point is there are only two things: orientation and pleasure. And I want to repeat that my saying that it's just orientation and pleasure. That simplification is the result of an enormous amount of thinking, an enormous amount of processing. It wasn't laziness. It wasn't just, I'm just going to throw this out and just do that. It was really thinking about organic intelligence in depth, thinking about alternative approaches in depth, thinking about life in depth, thinking about how we do session work, and thinking about a lot in depth. And those two things, orientation and pleasure, do integrate an enormous amount of nuanced material. So when I say pleasure, I mean it in like a full sense that's explicated in great detail across my writings and videos. So the term pleasure in organic intelligence and the term comfort, I often use comfort as the stand-in for orientation and pleasure. It's like the marriage of the two. If I don't want to explain orientation, I'll just say comfort because it's low intensity pleasure, which is close to orientation. So I have reasons for using the word comfort too. I think through what I say. And so the word pleasure in organic intelligence is an important term, and it's not just to be regarded as, oh, you're on a roller coaster eating chili fries, or you're having sex and drinking. It's very precise and all encompassing. It would include, if you get into an advanced meditations and you do like jhana work, and if you don't know what that means, don't worry. But it includes that. It's the focus on comfort and pleasure in organic intelligence is a very refined, worked out, encompassing concepts. I'll say that. So when we focus on pleasure, we are focusing on the states that people associate with feeling safe, and we're inviting an orientation towards the focal concept of pleasure because that's the point. The point is to pursue happiness, not feeling safe. I mean, happiness is just more important than anything. It's the so. I'll stop there. I'll stop. Okay, Rena, do you have any final?
I'm gonna let that be kind of the final word
Okay,
on this,
okay,
and including just basically the final word of why it may not be important to focus on safety. It
yeah.
may be more important to focus on orientation and pleasure, and then safety becomes a byproduct of that in terms of the feeling, assuming that the environment actually is safe.
Thank you. When you're petting your dog or cat after a long, hard day, and the importance of that is that it's pleasurable, you know,
Sure.
or
Yep.
cuddling your dog. The importance is it's enjoying life. It's
Yeah.
pleasurable. All right.
You don't
Uh,
even have a dog and cat, do you?
I I do not.
I didn't think so. Neither do I.
Yeah, but I'm trying to pander to the masses. In my YouTube, it's all about pandering to the Just I don't know what I meant by that. Just Okay,
Cats and dogs.
cats and dogs. To learn more about either of us and the coaching we offer, there will be links in the description. To learn more about organic intelligence, you can read my writing on Substack, link in the description, and explore my video library on YouTube, including the short videos. I meticulously craft my Substack posts and YouTube videos to present substantive content that's direct, clear, and concise. Thank you, everyone, for the longer than usual episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Rena.
Thank
And
you.
I will look forward to seeing